What's going on, guys? I'm Chris from Full Throttle Repair Shop, and today I'm doing a review on this Black Widow air over hydraulic ATV lift table. In this video, I'm going to give my opinion on the lift. I have nothing to do with the Black Widow lifts or discount ramps. I just bought this lift and I'm doing a review on it because when I bought it, there was nothing on the internet about it. You know, the general stuff on their website, dimensions, stuff like that, but there was no real customer reviews on it. So that's why I'm doing this video. So you guys can check it out to see if it's going to fit your needs. Now, I've had this lift for about 2 years now, and I've been using it quite a bit. In this video, I'm going to go over some things I found that were pretty good with the lift, and other things that were not so good with the lift. I'm also going to talk about how I got the lift, how it came on the truck and whatnot, and what I had to do to set the lift up. I'm not really going to go over the specs of the lift, about how high it is, how wide it is, stuff like that. I'll put a link in the description below with all the product information so you guys can browse through that. And with all that said, I'm going to give you guys a closer look at this lift so you can check it out. I'm going to point out some key features on it, and then we'll get right into the review. I'm going to start off with going over how I got the lift. Basically ordered it online. It came, within about a week or so. It wasn't too long a shipping time. When I did get it in, it came in a huge wooden pallet crate, which was super heavy duty. And the only problem I had with that was it actually came upside down in the crate. So this top part here was actually facing the ground. So I actually had to flip the lift over, which was very hard because this thing probably weighs over 500 pounds. And when you start flipping it, it starts to extend itself out, so it made it pretty difficult without damaging it. The only other thing that was kind of sketchy when I ordered it was, it said in the description and in the pictures it had a motorcycle wheel style chuck. So if you wanted to work on a motorcycle on here, you could clamp it down and you can work safely with it. When I got the lift, it did not have that. So what I did was I called up Discount Ramps. The woman on the phone kind of told me it wasn't supposed to come with it, and it was kind of a generic picture on the website. Well, if it shows it in the pictures and it says it in the description and I paid for it, I want it. So I kind of hassled them a little bit about it, and they did ship it to me. I've never put it on here, but if it's in the description and everything else and you paid for it, you're going to want it because someday you might need it. If your buddy's got a bike, you want to work on it, even if you don't, you have it. You can bolt it on there and you're good to go. One nice thing about this lift is when you get this thing in the mail, it pretty much comes all together. The only thing you do have to put on is that little tail ramp, which is super easy. There's 2 pins on there. You put the ramp on there, 2 cotter pins. That's installed. That little trap door on the back also has to be installed. And the hydraulic unit. So basically the hydraulic ram comes on the lift already with the hose on it, and all you do is thread the hydraulic hose into the air over hydraulic system and you're ready to go. One other thing about this lift is that it is an air over hydraulic system. So what that means is you need an air compressor to run this lift. It's not an electric over hydraulic where you just plug it in and you're good to go. You're going to need an air compressor to run this lift. With that being said, you're not going to need a crazy air compressor. I have a cheapo air compressor. I think it's like a 30-gallon air compressor I got at Harbor Freight. I got a couple of them, they work pretty good, and it runs this table just fine. I can pretty much pick it up all the way before the pump even kicks on to refill the tank. So for this lift table, that little compressor, it works just fine. This right here is the air over hydraulic lift system. Basically the air hose hooks into it and then the hydraulic line runs to the ram. And how you use it is the big flat side here brings it up and the little side brings it down. Now I'm going to go over the build quality of the lift. This lift is actually made with a diamond plate top on it. It's actually really sturdy. Doesn't really flex, and it's super durable. It's got a really good paint job on it. It's kind of like a powder coating. I've used this thing a ton for welding, you know, small engine shop work, snow blowers, lawnmowers, you name it, ATVs. I've had them on here. It's held up pretty good. The paint's not worn off as bad as I thought it was going to be for the price I paid for the lift. So the deck quality is really good on this lift. Better than I actually expected. Now let's get down here to the framework of the machine. As you can see, it's got some pretty heavy duty stout supports. I was actually surprised when I saw how well this thing is built. These metal supports here they're pretty thick, you know, they're not chintzy at all. This bottom rail here looks like it's about an 1/8 inch to a 1/4 inch. It's actually pretty thick, and the overall build quality of the frame is actually really good. And as you can see, it's not all rusty, it's not all beat up, and I abuse this thing. I use it for snow blowers in the winter time. So all winter, I think last year I had probably over 200 snow blowers on this machine. And you know, with the salt and the snow and the water, it's actually held up pretty good. There's almost no rust on it. Now that I've used the lift for quite a while, I found a couple issues with the lift. The main problems I've had with it are in the hydraulic system. When I first got the lift, I assembled it and everything went together great, and I noticed a hydraulic leak at the bottom of the ram where the hose threaded into it. And I used to work on cranes, stuff like that, so I'm very familiar with hydraulic hoses and stuff like that. So, you know, I got everything together the proper way, I mated the cylinder with the hose the proper way, and after a couple uses of it, it would still leak. So what I noticed is, on the hose itself, there's actually no swivel in it, so it's a direct connect. So as you're moving your foot control around, it actually was loosening up the other side hook to the ram. So I kind of really wrenched down on it. I don't move it around as much, and that has stopped the leak on there. As you can see, there is an oil absorbent pad underneath this lift, and the reason why that is the ram started to leak on it. Probably a year into it, I still thought it was a hydraulic leak leaking on it, but it wasn't. Actually, the packing on the ram started to leak on it. Every time I bring it up and drop it back down, you know, it does drip some oil out of it. After looking at the ram a little bit, it is a pretty chintzy quality ram. It's not the best. So if they can improve one thing on this lift, that's what it would be for me, is to put a better high quality ram in there, because out of every problem I've had on this lift, that's the worst one. The two main problems I had on this lift, and that was it. Now this is the leak I was talking about with the hydraulic ram. As you can see down there, there's definitely some hydraulic fluid. You can see it dripping down just from the little bit of use I just did to it. So that's definitely an issue, and you can actually see the fluid leaking down the ram. Another problem I had with this lift was the locking system on it. When you bring it up to your work height, you can lower back down with the lock on, so it takes off the hydraulic pressure, and now you're on a mechanical lock, which is a great feature of this lift. Most lifts like this have that feature. The problem I'm having with it is, I'll bring the lift table up to my desired height, and then once I go to set to lock, I'll bring the handle out to lock it in, and the foot will just stay up in the air. So I actually have to reach under the lift, knock it down, so that it will lock in position, and I'll show you that in a second. Now the issue I'm having with the locking system on it is right here. So basically, once you get your lift up to the all the way up position, you go and flip your handle down, and see how this now went all the way down. So when you lower the lift down, it bumps against that, so you have a good mechanical lock. The problem I have with it sometimes is you bring it up and it'll stay up like this in the up position. You have to knock it down with your hand. Now that was a real-time lift right there, and again, all I have is that small air compressor, so it's easy for a homeowner to be able to just bring this lift to their house and use it right there. Well, you guys just saw me bring up this lift. That was a real-time up and down there. It might seem a little bit slow to you at first, but when you put a full load on here, it moves at the same speed. So I've had ATVs on here up to sizes of like a brute force, which is a huge four-wheeler. They fit on these lifts no problem, and it lifts them up with ease. That speed there doesn't really change. If you have nothing on it or a full load, it pretty much goes up and down the same speed. Overall, this lift is an awesome piece of equipment. It works really good. It's got a couple little flaws with it, like that hydraulic ram down there and that locking mechanism. But other than that, this thing's awesome. I can pretty much put anything on here, lift it up to working height. It really saves your back. Once you start working on a table like this, you can't work on the ground again. A couple other key points I want to mention about this lift is it is very, very stable. If I have an ATV on here, I have no problem hopping right up on here with the ATV, not even thinking about if it's going to tip over or not, because it is very stable. It holds the weight very good. So sometimes if you have like a motorcycle on here and you want to climb up to start it up while it's in the air, you could easily do that. Same thing with the ATV. Another nice key feature on this lift is these adjustable feet on here. So if your ground isn't perfectly level, you can always adjust it up or down to match it. The only thing I didn't like about it was it only has adjustments in the front. So if your front to back is unlevel, you can do that. If you're side to side, you can't adjust that. And the way my floor kind of is, it does slope down to the center a little bit because there's a drain in the middle. So if it did have that rear adjustment on there, it'd help me out just that much more. If you guys have any more questions about this lift table here, put them in the comments down below. I'll try my best to answer any questions the best I can. Maybe even make a video if you want to see a different feature about the lift. I can always do that also. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and hit that like button and also subscribe, because we're going to have more review videos just like this in the future.